enormous effect on me. I felt like I grew up in an outsider household, and as such, never really felt I was a typical Liverpudlian. But at least in one way, I am. In Liverpool, every road leads to the river, and in turn, most Liverpudlians have some connection to it. The city grew up to service the port. Over the centuries, Liverpool's been the destination of slave ships, troop ships, and commercial traffic. Its majestic waterfront has also greeted thousands of immigrants, and my family was amongst them. My maternal grandparents were Jews from Lithuania, my father's mother was French, and my father's father from the Isle of Man. Scratch the surface of most modern Scousers and you'll find a similar story.
Do you know where your family's from originally?
South America. I've got a mixed race background, even though I look white.
My father was Norwegian, my maternal grandfather Lithuanian, and my maternal grandmother was from Irish stock, of course.
There's a lot of Irish there.
Yeah, Ireland.
Ireland, yeah.
Some of it's from Ireland.
Do you know where your family's from originally?
Oh, all over the place. All over the place.
He's got 10 dads.
This history of immigration in the city has meant that Liverpool's seen itself as the New York of Europe, a world in one city. Its black population dates back to slave trading days. At one time, it had the largest Chinese population in England outside London, and it was home to England's first mosque. But there's an element of romantic self-delusion in this cosmopolitanism, because certainly in my day, each group kept very much to their own neighbourhood.
When I was a kid, I remember the neighbourhood of Anfield as being completely white, which really upset me, because as the child of progressives, I was desperate to show my racial tolerance to black people. And finally, a black man started walking down our road on his way to work, and I would lie in wait for him, then rush out and show my tolerance to him by smiling gormlessly upwards and wishing him good morning in Swahili. Jambo! Pretty soon he started walking another way to work.
Despite my best efforts, tensions have always existed between the different communities. And historically, the greatest tension has been bound up with the largest group of immigrants, the Irish. Liverpool's skyline reflects this division. The Anglican Cathedral sits at one end of the optimistically named Hope Street, with the Catholic one, known as Paddy's Wigwam, at the other. There are so many descendants of Irish immigrants in the city that it's often joked that Liverpool is Ireland's most easterly city. And with the people came the politics.
I just wanted to go to war there. Martial music.
I've always been aware how much Liverpudlians define themselves by religion. The city is divided between the Green Catholics and the Orange Protestants. I can't think of anywhere else in England where you could be asked if you were orange, and that doesn't mean who your mobile phone provider is. Orange Lodges are Protestant fraternities whose aim is to protect and uphold the Reformed or Protestant faith, the Queen and country. Liverpool has more of them than anywhere else in England, and I've found myself at one of their rituals, a march to celebrate a 300-year-old Protestant victory over the Catholic Irish.
We're not an anti-Roman Catholic organisation. We actually, during our meetings, when we open the meetings, part of the prayer, the opening prayer, would be to remember Roman Catholics and see if we can get them for the error of the ways. The majority of people here will work or live alongside Roman Catholics.
But I mean, there was trouble in the past, wasn't
Without a doubt, without a doubt. There's been a lot of trouble. Thankfully, we haven't had any major trouble in Liverpool for about 15 years or so now, and that's a welcome sign of the times. But prior to that, there'd be bottles and bricks. In the old days, one of the favourite missiles would have been a bag of pepper.
Growing up in the Protestant part of the city, my wife Linda simply saw the lodge as a chance to get a new frock. But her parents, sensitive to the wider implications, wouldn't let her join. And I, an atheist communist Jew, probably wouldn't have got her lucky. It reminded me a bit of my family's, you know, rights, tribal rights. Well, you know, we would walk down the street, but we'd be flying North Vietnamese flags, or, you know, rather than, you know, orange banners and stuff like that. But it's that kind of human inclination to walk down the middle of the street shouting. You know, it seems to be in every tribe, really. An enduring and inescapable feature of Liverpool's multiculturalism is the Scouse accent. It's a result of a whole mishmash of voices that came in with the immigrants. And ironically, the result of this cosmopolitan stew is the one thing that unifies all of us Liverpudlians. Our accent is the USP of Scousers. If I ever tried to escape Liverpool, my voice always gave my origins away. In all other British cities, the urban accent slowly blends into its rural counterpart. But in Liverpool, the accent stops dead on the city's borders. On one side of the East Lancs Road, you got people talking like, "Oh, well, I think I'll have a pie for my lunch, or I might have some kippers." On the other side of the East Lancs, they're going, "Oh, you know, all right, you know, I've got to get me away from, you know, I've got to..." I've used my accent as a shorthand for humour, and others, like my mate Harry Enfield, have made a career out of laughing at us Scousers and our funny voices.
The Scouser alphabet. A, which says A and is for all right.
In this modern world, Scouse has now become a subject of serious academic study. Linguist Kevin Watson, a Scouser himself, wrote his PhD on the accent.
There are things that happen in the Liverpool accent which don't happen anywhere else, in any other accent. And one of the things is the pronunciation of K as ch. In a word like book, you get buch, or a docker would be a docher. And this is something that's very, very unique to Liverpool, and it's something that we think was innovated from contact with Irish varieties. And it doesn't happen in Manchester or other nearby places.
See, I would have said buch.
Well, that's
when I was younger. Buch, but it's buch now, is it?
For younger speakers, it tends to be. There's still variation. You get speakers saying things like a kochbuch, and alternating between the two differences.
Isn't it also true that the Liverpool accent is actually getting thicker?
I think it is, and older speakers can pronounce the T at the end of a word like an H, right? So if you speak and they don't hear what you say, they say, "Wah," or something like, "What are you looking at?" And this T at the end is always pronounced like a bit of breath, right? Now, younger speakers can do that, and they can do other things, extra things, in longer polysyllabic words. So you get things like, "Yeah, they'll win on agrige." When you go to the beach, you take a bucket. And this is something that's very unique to Liverpool, but it's also something that's unique to the younger speakers of Liverpool.
And why would they do that?
Why would they? Well, it's something that they've innovated. It's not something that they've copied from another accent, because it doesn't happen anywhere else. So it's a way of increasing speakers' regionality and just increasing their distinctiveness.
I think there's a TV show in, like, a linguist who solves crimes. So if you go like that, you know they'd nick the car. So you just have to go and say, "He says big, he's a thief." I think it's a sign of typical Liverpudlian perversity that while others mock the accent, young Scousers are making their voices even more distinct. What would you, young lady, call that?
Digestive.
Digestive what?
Biscuit. A book. A chicken.
A brick. A cake. Bucket.
Brick. A sock. They've all got in so you can hear the Scouse accent.
Duck.
A bucket. Oh, this is funny, this. Taking the piss out of us here.
What's this for, anyway?
Brick.
It's a documentary about Liverpool. We're just talking about the accent, you know, way people, pronounce words.
Cake. Sock. It's a sock movie, Val. It's a sock, man.
So if my accent can't be separated from the city's position on the banks of the Mersey, there's also another bit of me which seems typical of a Scouser and is undoubtedly tied up with the city's history as a port, and that's my compulsion to entertain.
It's never been officially quantified, but Liverpool must be pretty near the top of the list when it comes to producing entertainers. In music, of course, there's Jerry and the Pacemakers, the Beatles, Elvis Costello, the Zootons, the Lars, Ian McCulloch. In comedy, there's Jimmy Tarbuck, Paul O'Grady, me. In writing, there's me, Jimmy McGovern, Beryl Bainbridge, Willie Russell. I mean, who's Manchester produced?
Well, I suppose there's Oasis and Osama bin Laden, but... In my experience, most Scousers will always make an effort to entertain you. As a friend of mine said, Liverpool is a city where the people invariably act as if they're in a film. There's a part of them that's always giving a performance. But I think that the city developed an entertainment culture out of economic necessity. In the past, Liverpool catered for a massive transient population. Sailors and travellers in strange bobble hats came and went with the tide. They had money in their pockets, and Liverpudlians had to compete for their custom, not knowing when the next ship would be in. In this insecure environment, for many, entertainment wasn't just their job, it was a means of survival. This era of Liverpool is over. The docks still function, but whereas at their height they employed 25,000 dockers, now they only employ about 400. There's a grim irony in the fact that today the dock's main export is scrap metal to China. Our industrial revolution dismantled to feed theirs.